Hey Paul, how you doing, man? You okay?
Hanging out, man. Just or you're working. You know what I mean? Got to pay the bills.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I mean, that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about as well, because you're probably the highest level grappler that I can think of that also has like the highest level professional career. Do you know what I mean? How do you actually do that? You know what I mean? How do you juggle that sort of lifestyle?
Uh, I mean, I think people want me to give a response that makes it seem like it's really difficult. But I mean, if I'm just being honest, it's actually not that hard for me. I think especially in the United States, most people who have played a sport either in high school or in college, uh, you just get used to the lifestyle where, for example, in high school, wake up 6 in the morning, go to school, then train after, then get home, do homework, and then especially for us who are wrestling, cut weight, do whatever extra you needed to do. And you're 14, so you know once it becomes part of your everyday life. And for me, I guess I kept doing it from 14 until now. So it's just easy because it's ingrained in my person, like in who I am. So just working and pursuing a sport simultaneously, it's just it's just who I am. So it's pretty easy. Like I don't really think about it, nor do I feel like it really stresses me out or anything extra.
Yeah, well, you are right that there's a great sort of like organizational aspect to the school system when it comes to wrestling and other high school sports, but you are still like pretty unique in that aspect. You know, there's not many people that manage to do, like I said, like a high level competitive career and actually like have a professional career alongside of it as well. Do you have any idea why, sort of what sets you apart, or maybe why other people can't quite maintain that level of commitment?
Uh, I mean, I don't. It's kind of tough, man, because I think the people around me are pretty similar to me. Like for example, my brother is also an attorney and also competes at a pretty high level. And then, my really good friends who also train also have like high, level professions. So I guess the people around me also are very similar to me in the sense that that's what they do. But I don't know, man. I think generally humans want to stay away from things that suck and want to pursue things that give you like a very quick sense of pleasure. And I think, for example, waking up at 6 in the morning for, I don't know, like 18 years now and go to sleep at like 10 or 11, uh, every day or midnight, sometimes one because you're working. Like, I think most people want to stay away from that because it just kind of sucks. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I wish I had an answer like, hey, this is why I have been able to pursue it. But um, I think maybe if we're following that principle of like the hedonistic principles of like human nature, I think I just really enjoy grappling, and I really enjoy. Uh, I've always enjoyed like intellectual pursuits as well. So I think these two maybe give me an outlet to do both of those things because I don't know, man. I feel like if I didn't enjoy one of those, I don't know if I would be doing it, and I don't know if people would be asking me like, "How do you do it?" So
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be easy to do what you love. Obviously, that's one of the things that I think everyone sort of wishes they could do or wants to pursue is whatever their hobby is or whatever they, like I said, whatever they fall in love with. And you've been quite fortunate then being able to do it from both the professional and competitive side of things.
yeah, actually, I think that's a good point, man. And everyone always tries to say like pursue your passion, and everything kind of makes sense after. And yeah, I guess to an extent I do agree because I am very passionate about the things that I do, and it does make it way easier. And I'm not necessarily like fretting the fact that like I don't get to watch Netflix shows or whatever. Although I did just start one recommended by a close friend of mine, but I haven't, I'm not really caught up because I keep falling asleep after like 10 minutes of watching it. So but yeah, I guess I don't really fret the fact that I'm missing out on a lot of different things that most people are doing because I really enjoy and I'm very passionate about grappling and being a lawyer. So
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that, like you sort of touched on earlier. Grappling goes back quite a long time for you. Obviously, you wrestled long before you found jiu-jitsu, and I think, from my understanding, you found jiu-jitsu while you were still actively competing in wrestling as well, didn't you?
yep, that's right. So when, oh man, it's been a while now, but I think I just turned 18. Um, my brother had already found wrestling. I mean, not wrestling, sorry. He found jiu-jitsu before me, like 6 months before me. And it was my summer break and he was already kind of trying it out. So I tried it out for a week, right? And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and whoop on these boys real quick. Cause I thought I was the hot stuff in high school. And um, sorry, can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, my screen just went black. But okay, yeah, I tried it out, got absolutely demolished, and then went to wrestle in college, got into a car accident. Um, Pretty bad one. It kind of messed up my foot and my hip a little bit. And I was like, what should I do now? And my brother was still practicing jujitsu, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna like I don't have to start on my feet because I couldn't put pressure on my foot for a couple months. I don't have to put pressure on my feet, so maybe I'll just do jujitsu, and that's that. And you know, I think the fact that to me jujitsu felt, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack from the wrestling community, but to me, jujitsu feels like a more complete grappling art than wrestling because wrestling's control based and jujitsu also has that control, but there's like a finality to it because your opponent, apart from just holding them, it's like you can hold your opponent in jujitsu as well, but then they have to confirm that they are in fact done. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, I can't move anymore, but like, hey, if you do not let go, I'm gonna die. So I really enjoy that. And when I first started trying jujitsu, I noticed that very quickly, and I was like, yeah, I can't stop doing this now.
Did you find you had like quite a lot of success early on then? 'Cause I know that happens with a lot of wrestlers where you've already got those years of grappling. Did you find it quite easy competitively at the beginning?
Yeah, I think. Uh, so, do you speak any other language?
No, just English. I speak a little bit of. I'm from Wales, so I speak a little bit of Welsh, but not enough to actually have a proper conversation.
All right. Well, I'm gonna draw an analogy that I think. Well, I was hoping that maybe you would kind of pick up on it, but so it's like speaking a language, right? If you're fluent in a language that's very similar to your target language, you're able to, like, let's say, become semi-fluent much faster than everyone else. But in order to become fully fluent, your your native tendencies are really going to start conflicting with the target of whatever you want to learn as you're really becoming fluent in whatever you're trying to do. So, for example, I think wrestling helped me become able to be like purple belts very quickly because wrestling gives you such a strong positional structure that, like, passing guard, taking down, um, mounting, getting the back, all of those stages made a lot of sense. But for example, playing guard, man, for years I was just like, man, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do it. Don't ask me about guard. All right. If I'm ever in guard, I'm just gonna stand up. All right. But yeah, so like during those moments when I was playing guard, most of my tendencies or everything in my brain was just like, man, just stand up. Why are you on your butt right now? You're not in a strong position. You're in a losing position. And when I finally was able to break through that, um, then I kind of started understanding like, hey, guard is actually, to me now, like the best position. And now my top game sucks, as maybe a lot of people noticed during the what is it, the Europe trials at CJI.
Yeah, well, you are right that, like you said, there's a lot of crossover, but then there's also huge differences. And one thing I did want to mention as well, you obviously you had a decent amount of success coming up through the ranks when you were still a color belt, from what I can see. And I know you won gi worlds at brown belt as well, but you haven't really competed too much in the gi since becoming a black belt. You know, those that few years since then, like the last sort of 10 years or so. I know you've done the occasional tournament early on, but nothing anywhere near recently. Is there any reason why you decided to stop competing in the gi at all?
Uh, like there's not a particular reason, but so I did do after I won brown belt worlds, I did black belt worlds, and then I beat I forgot his name. I think his nickname's like Lagarchina. He was like a 4-time world champion in the gi. That was my first round, by the way. Um, and in gi worlds, as soon as I got in my black belt, and then my next match, which is a quarterfinals, I think I went against Luis Panza, and he knee barred me. And then I think I started law school shortly after that, and I was still training mainly in the gi, but the competitions around no gi were getting the most hype. Um, so I started competing more in no gi, and then of course, my brother and most of the people here in Atlanta, where I now live, uh, only train no gi or primarily no gi. So I don't know. I think just the circumstances kind of led me to doing mostly no gi and competing in no gi, and it also just kind of happened that for whatever reason, maybe the fad right now is competing in nogi, and that's where the money and kind of like the viewership is at. So, but I mean, I think about it all the time. I think about popping on the gi and uh, I don't know, showing some of these boys that I still got it.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, you are right that like the recent sort of trend is obviously no gi is becoming a lot more popular, but like I said, you haven't really done gi since like what 2016, 2017. So I mean, it was even before this, wasn't it? You know, before this sort of like recent rise in popularity.
uh, yeah, I mean, I think the last time I trained in the gi, well, the last time I competed no gi, I mean, sorry, in the gi was 2015 or 16, but I still trained primarily gi until about 2018. Um, and then when I moved down, so I went to school in Indiana or law school in Indiana. And then when I moved down to Atlanta, um, everyone here just trains nogi. So that's what I was like, all right, I'll just concentrate on nogi because my friends are mainly doing nogi. So
Well, I mean, it definitely paid off because obviously you've become quite literally one of the most successful ADCC Trials competitors ever. I mean, you've won it 4 times now, which is crazy, really. Like that's consistent success over pretty much a decade, near enough. And is there anything that you can sort of attribute that success to? Because there's very, very few people that can win trials more than once, really. You know what I mean? And 4 times is crazy.
Mhm. um, if I'm being completely honest, I can't tell you exactly what it is because obviously like the my opponents or the people I'm going against, generally speaking, have more time to train and compete than I do. And I've thought about it a lot because a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Do you think it's technique?" I'm like, "Well, very likely no, because this is what they do for a living. So I can't say I have better technique, or I don't do strength and conditioning. so, so I doubt it's like my conditioning. Actually, my conditioning sucks, if I'm being honest. But uh, I don't think it's my strength or like agility or speed or anything like that. But something that I do feel like I have over a lot of people is I don't really like, I just don't get nervous in competitions. And I give myself grace if I were to lose. And because I don't put that much importance on losing and I only put importance on doing my best, I'm very clear headed when I'm competing. Whereas I feel like my opponent, a lot of times, as soon as I step on the mat and I look at them, it makes me feel weird how nervous they are. You know what I mean? And generally speaking, like if you're very nervous, you're gonna you have a higher tendency to react in a way that you're not used to in positions that you should be reacting the way that you're used to. Um, so I think very likely that's definitely one component of why I'm winning against a lot of like professional grapplers, I guess you can call it. It's just my mentality around competing is pretty different to theirs.
Do you think that comes from the wrestling background then, where competition is so frequent?
100%. So when I definitely remember when I first started wrestling, actually my first match ever, I lost and I got pinned by a kid that I was whooping on, but I was so nervous that like, I felt like I couldn't hear anything. And there was like a small, like humming or buzzing sound, a buzzing sound in my ear the entire time. Right. And I was trying to take this kid down and do all the stuff that I was already practicing on doing. And it just wasn't working out. And that was my first match ever. Of course, that feeling kind of maintained for the first like 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever matches. But because in wrestling, you have a season, and within the season, every weekend for like 3 or 4 months, you're competing, right? You can feel as nervous as you want for the first couple of weekends, but it's just human like nature to get used to whatever position you're being put in. And if you're competing Friday and Saturday every single weekend, at some point you're gonna be like, all right, man, well, even if you're getting your butt whooped, you're like, all right, man, let me just go get my butt whooped and then we can go eat and have fun with my friends afterwards, right? And yeah, I guess I've been doing that since I was 14. And at some point you're just like, look, man, nothing happens if I lose. Like, you just really start to understand nothing is gonna happen if I lose. Either way, I'm gonna go out to eat with my friends after. And, there may be some jokes about how I lost coming from my friends, but other than that, like, on Monday, I'm still gonna be training. And on Tuesday, I'll still be training. And then next weekend, if I want to, I can have another competition. You know what I mean? Have another go at it. So yeah, definitely the mentality that comes with wrestling around competition is amazing and helps out a lot.
Yeah, and obviously you've had those experiences now at the highest level as well. Obviously, ADCC, you've been there 5 times over, so you know exactly what to expect as well. But outside of ADCC, up until recently, you haven't really competed on like that many sort of like high level professional shows other than there. Is there any reason for that, or is that just the life that you lead, sort of not leaving you much time to do other stuff?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have a lot of free time, and I don't know. I mean, I can't say I have like a really good reason why I haven't been competing, as apart from like ADCC or anything like that. But I think it's also uh, I haven't been like I am on Instagram, but as of maybe like a year or so or 2 years ago is when I really started to become more active, and I realized like, hey, social media, if you're on it, you actually can learn about like different competitions and tournaments and things of that nature that I wasn't really too aware of before. And now that I'm kind of like more in the scene, and then I'm seeing like, hey, there's a bunch of little tournaments. I'm like, oh well, let's do it because and now I have my own law firm as well, so it's a little easier for me to dictate how I'm gonna you know go about my work. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm doing more now because I know more. Like I know more tournaments that are happening there, and I also get to dictate how I do or how I go about my work. So uh yeah, but I wish I had like a better reason. Like, hey, I used to have to work every Saturday or something like that. But that's just it wouldn't be the truth. So
Well, yeah, I mean, you did recently, just last year, compete in probably one of the biggest like time commitments there is in jiu-jitsu, which was PGF. Obviously, you did a whole week of jiu-jitsu every day. I'm guessing you had to take the week off work, obviously. How was that experience? Because I know it's a pretty unique thing having that many matches condensed in such a short space of time.
um, first, I did not take off work. I was just working early in the morning or after competition. But yeah, I would say PGF for an athlete was probably the most fun I've had in the longest time competing. So competing just because it doesn't it's not like a nerve wracking experience for me doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most fun experience. But PGF, I'm not even messing with you. It was extreme. First of all, the season had a bunch of people who were extremely dangerous. And I don't know why, But at least for me, like the fact that I knew that at any point during my match, anything could happen, that just made it that much more fun. And also, there's like a team component to it with people whom, you've never really trained with or competed with or anything like that. But the fact that you're in a team together does build like some sort of camaraderie while everybody is going through the same experience. So apart from having like a team camaraderie, you also have just the general like grappler camaraderie going on at the same time because we're all going there. We all want to do well. Nobody wants to get hurt. And yeah, you kind of just start empathizing with everyone because they're literally going through the same thing you're going. They 100% want the same thing you want. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's just such a unique experience. It's hard for me to explain, but there's like in most competitions that I've gone to, you I don't really get like a lot of opportunity to speak with my opponent, to see him warming up, to see how he's thinking, to crack jokes in the warm up area day after day. Um, while in PGF, you do get that opportunity. You see your opponent every single day. You have a team. You talk strategy. You make jokes. You see people get hurt. You help the person that's getting hurt. Then you have new people coming in, and you're cheering everybody on while everyone's cheering on you. And then the intimacy of the arena as well is something very unique because it's not like ADCC Stadium or something like that. But I can't remember. I think the location was undisclosed or something like, for PGF. So I don't know if I can even say it. But you guys saw on video that there's like a bunch of couches and it's just a mat and kind of like Django Unchained. That's what it felt like. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just a very unique, cool experience. And I think every grappler should at least do it one time because, also around like day 2 or 3, because these are scrubs. It's not like it's one black belt against 12 white belts. It's generally speaking, and hopefully PGF keeps going at it, but it's like some of the best, welterweight, some of the best middleweight, some of the best light heavyweights, etc. Right? Um, so it's like around day 2 or 3, you start feeling just exhausted because you're now like 6 or 7 matches in, and you're like, I don't know how everybody's doing this, and then you come in and everyone is looking that way, like, oh, I cannot. Yeah, like, this is day 3 now of me going against who do I have next? Chris Wojcik? Oh my god, you know what I mean? Like, I have to go against Marcin from Poland, and that man is just a tank and does not stop moving forward. And you're like, oh my god, bro, I could be at home chilling, you know, with my dog. Or why am I here? You know what I mean? So it's such a cool, unique experience. Anyway, I could talk forever, man. Of course, they're not paying me to advertisement or anything like that, but I just really, I there's such a unique experience, and I really enjoy what they're trying to do so much that I really want everyone not only to hopefully be able to compete in it one day, but also to just tune in and watch. And I hope that PGF also, I haven't seen like the behind the scenes camera work, but I hope they capture more of it because I think it's such a unique thing that happens there. That is, I can just guarantee it doesn't happen in any other tournament.
Yeah. No, it makes sense because it is, like I said, it's a unique format that it can't really be replicated. I suppose it can, but it isn't being replicated. Nobody else is doing like that many condensed matches in a short space of time. And I know PGF have even decided to move to like a weekly thing lately as well. But talking about the sort of like team aspect of it, obviously that's something big coming up for you now. You've got your place at CJI too. Can I ask one thing that surprised, I think, a lot of people when they saw the European trials being announced? How come you decided to go for the European team rather than your regular Americans?
Yeah, you guys didn't know I was European.
I didn't realize. No.
Yeah, I'm 1/20th Spaniard. uh, no. So they invited me to compete at their trials, and I'm not really sure why they invited me. I haven't really. Everything will just be an assumption as to why I was invited. They asked me if I wanted to compete, and I love competing, and I love competing in tournaments that look like are gonna be difficult, right? So the 88 kilogram, I was thinking like, all right, Owen O'Flanagan, um, or what's his name? The guy who won trials in Brazil for 88. He's actually on the team at 99 kilos now.
Oh, Charles Negromonte.
Charles Negromonte. I was thinking like, man, there's gonna be some good people on, man. So yeah, okay, I'm in, guys. What do y'all need from me? They're like, oh, actually, I was just like, yeah, can you just please give me give me enough notice because I have to move things around and work. I think they gave me like, I don't know, like 13 days. Like, all right, man, you'll be here in like 13 days. So I was like, all right, well, that's not really enough notice, and I won't be able to get there until literally the day before. So, but yeah, they invited me to compete. There's one part of me that thinks, maybe they invited me to compete because they wanted me for sure to be on the team. There's another part of me that thinks maybe they invited me because they wanted their trials to look better, right? Um, yeah, maybe they're like, hey, we want our top guy to beat someone with a name, so he has more recognition going in. I'm not really sure, and I can't speak for them. My more glass half full side wants me to believe that it's just like, they really wanted me to be part of the team and thought that I was going to win. So I'll go with that one. All right. But either way, they just invited me and I love competing. So I was like, let's do it. And yeah, ended up winning. So it all worked out.
Nice. And one of the more sort of like controversial moments from that event as well, obviously, was your final match with Taylor, because at least for everyone watching at home, it looked as though the ADCC overtime round was just kind of spontaneous, thrown out there when they couldn't figure out how to pick a winner, sort of thing. Was that what actually happened? That it was just sort of spur of the moment, that overtime round?
Yeah. I mean, so I looked at the rules. Well, first, I received the rules day before, but I also looked at the rules very carefully. So, which kind of sucked that we had to do overtime to begin with, because the number one factor that will lead to winning was initiations. Okay. So I knew overall, if I can initiate more and I can stop his initiations, right, it would objectively lead me to win, right? Regardless of anything else, right? So penalties was actually, I think it was the fourth factor to be considered in who was going to win. I think we both had the same amount of penalties, but I didn't even care because I just knew, look, man, they can penalize me all day long. As long as I have more initiations and I stop him from initiating any movements, right, I'm going to win. Of course, the second factor was submission attempts, and the third factor was positional control, okay? In my head, at least during the match, right, neither of us really did, because we're both guard players, right? I don't play top, but at some point I was like, hey man, we both stay here. Our initiations are going to be the same. Our submission attempts are going to be the same. Our positional control is going to be the same. And we're both getting penalized equally. So I was okay, let me go on top, right? Because at the very least, if I don't do right, positionally, I got one over him. Okay. So I play top, which again is and I'll admit it on camera, and I'm going to work on it for CJI, but my top control is because I only play guard, right? But whatever. So I play top. So I'm like, okay, now I have one over him. Then he starts trying to do something. I'm not really sure. I think he was more just trying to make it seem like he was doing things, because he never really put himself in a position where he would get fully underneath, because that would have opened up an easier pass for me. So he was kind of making it seem like he was doing a lot, but not really. And then at some point, I did start seeing some kind of openings for passing, and I started taking them. One, I think I got fully like north south, and he was able to regard, but still in my head, I'm like, okay, well that's one initiation versus none of his. Okay, so when we finished the match, I'm exhausted, right? Because like the last like 1 minute or so, when everybody was screaming like a minute or whatever, I was okay. I'm gonna try to do a bunch of initiations to make it clear that the number one factor should go to me, and I don't really care about the other ones, right? So I did a bunch. I was jumping left or right, doing just going crazy, and I'm tired, man. I'm like, all right, well, let's go ahead and call it a day, right? Um, and then of course they're like, oh, do you want overtime? And in my head, I'm like, no, I don't want overtime. I'm tired, man. I want to go home. You know what I mean? Uh, but anyway, so yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, it 100% for the both of us got declared in the middle of our match that it was going to be overtime. I'm not really sure why they decided to do ADCC rounds, as opposed to maybe they thought like, yo, man, if we just do 4 more minutes of this, it's going to be boring as for the people who are not only viewing this, I guess on YouTube, but also for the people who are there, because it was going to be more of the same. Like he was very likely going to pull. I was not going to pull at that point just because, I had something to prove. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was going to be absolutely the same. Maybe they decided to change the rules to change it up. And yeah, to be honest, he actually didn't do that bad. And he had a couple of attempts on my legs at the very beginning of the round that I'm not sure if they showed on camera. But yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job. But, I mean, that, he just wasn't going to take me down. So.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong that you have obviously got the standing advantage over most grapplers, really. Even though you say you're more of a guard player, you've still got that background that, especially here in the UK, like people can't replicate that wrestling system very well. Like, obviously, there are certain great wrestlers that come from the UK as well that do well, like internationally. But in general, the focus for UK Jiu-Jitsu is more around like playing guard rather than taking people down. So yeah, you're pretty much always going to have the advantage here.
Yeah, well, so I do play guard, but even if you watch most of my ADCC matches, like it's either I'm playing guard or I'm on my feet, but I'm generally not on top. That's what I meant by like I'm not really a top player. 100%. I'm still a good wrestler. So so yeah, and then apart from like offensive wrestling, my defensive wrestling I think is probably my strongest part. Like if I'm on my feet, like I can't remember the last time I got taken down. I can barely remember the last time I got submitted, but I can definitely not remember the last time I got taken down in a match. And I had this massive dude at last ADCC from Australia. He's really good actually. What's his name?
Declan Moody.
Yeah, I had this man deep in my legs, and he also couldn't take me down. But I will say I did pull guard on him, and this man's pressure was crazy, so crazy that I was like, man, I gotta get on my feet, man. What am I doing underneath this monster, man? I gotta go. But yeah, so
Nice. And obviously that books your ticket, your place now at CJI 2. And that was one of the big sort of like storylines last year was CJI versus ADCC. Did you ever consider going to CJI instead, or were you always sort of 100% focused on ADCC last year?
no, yeah, no, I definitely would have done CJI. Look, I love ADCC, and uh, but you know, I'm not married to a tournament. You know what I mean? I like the idea that CJI was proposing. Um, I definitely would have done it had they asked me to do it. They just didn't ask me to do it. Um, emails. Yeah, I mean, I would have done it had they asked me to do it, but they didn't ask me, so I ended up doing ADCC. And at the same time, uh, I do love ADCC, but I like the fact that CJI is in the game, and they're forced a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments to change how they view their athletes, and even in like an immediate reaction from ADCC because of CJI was, hey, we're gonna pay you guys something now. You know what I mean? Which never existed before. So good tournament.
Yeah, it's definitely done it's had a huge impact in the space of a year, really. Like it's already changed the sport massively. And can I ask, the only other thing I really wanted to sort of like query with you was this year now, obviously you've got CJI now to sort of plan for and prepare for, but you've also got ADCC trials coming back at the end of the year. Are you planning to have another run at that now?
Uh, yeah. So I've after I finished wrestling, uh, I was like, hey, I'm never gonna cut weight again. I don't know if you guys have peeped that. That generally I'm the smallest guy in my weight class. Even this ADCC or the last ADCC, I try to I try to gain weight, as much weight as possible, uh, for the 218-pound weight class, which of course, the majority of competitors are cutting to 218. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, start having 2 lunches and 2 dinners every single day. Even if I have a little fat on me, I'll still be able to, you know, not get pushed around so easily, or maybe not get exhausted by their weight. And I walked in, clothes on, a whopping 210 pounds to the 218-pound weight class. Uh, and yeah, I mean, especially now as the sport keeps on progressing, just like wrestling, right? So at some point, when everyone is cutting weight, you no longer will have opponents who are 215 going up to 218. The majority of guys are going to be over 218, cutting down, and they're going to be in shape. They're not going to be like, you know, slops or whatever. They're going to be like actually athletic dudes competing at 218. And I think that's what I've been finding out lately. That it's like, hey, look, the level of the sport is ever improving, and if I want to have a real good shot at top, I got to compete in my weight class, which means, or at the weight class that I'm closest to, which is 88 kilos. Anyway, that was a very long-winded way of saying this will be my first time going for the 88 kilos at ADCC. And, that is something that I was very surprised by, competing against Taylor, who was probably closer to 88 kilos himself. But uh, whenever I'm competing against someone, generally, whenever they start slapping me around or whatever, I feel it. Like I feel like I'm being just pulled around. While this time, it just felt very even, and I wasn't even used to it. Like I wasn't used to how like even it would feel if someone's around your weight. So I'm very excited to try ADCC 88 kilograms to see how it's going to play out. I think also, for whatever reason, even though like I'm not going to be by weight that much bigger, I feel like my size is still like, like I'm just a big dude for the weight class. So yeah, I'm also very interested in seeing how, I'm going to stack up against everyone at 88 kilograms and how they're going to be able to deal with that, because I'm used to going against 99 kilogram and up, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting.
Nice, nice. Well, we can't wait to see you there, definitely. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through with you or ask you today. But is there anything else you want to say, or anyone you want to give a shout out to, or anything like that?
Uh, yeah, just quick shout out to my team, American Top Team, and my main training partners, my brother Sergio, my little brother Ernesto. You guys are gonna hear big things from them coming up soon. In fact, you might hear one of them in PGF here in a little bit. That's it. Shout out to my city, Atlanta, and let's go Team Europe. Fish and chips all day, baby. Let's go.
Nice. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Paul. Take it easy. All right. Cheers.
Thanks, man.